fangs in the forest. A few years back, I was just an average trucker, living life behind the wheel, battling fatigue and solitude as I crisscrossed the country, delivering goods from one place to another. It wasn't a glamorous life by any means, but it put food on the table for my family, and in those days, that's all that mattered. On the particular night in question, I was on my way back from hauling a precious cargo, one that couldn't afford to be delayed. My family was going through a tough time, and I'd taken on extra hours at work to help cover the mounting bills. Every mile counted, every paycheck was a lifeline, and I was in a hurry to get back home to them. The evening had started like any other, with the hum of my engine as my constant companion. The radio played a mix of classic tunes and trucker chatter, the voices of fellow road warriors keeping me company in the dark. My rig, my trusty old partner in crime, was a weathered beast that had seen better days, but she had always gotten me where I needed to go. But just when I thought the night would be routine, I arrived upon a roadblock, quite literally. Construction work had reared its ugly head, forcing me onto an unfamiliar route, a winding road that led deep into the woods. Detour signs loomed large, and there was no choice but to follow them. As I navigated onto the narrow, winding path, a sense of unease washed over me. The forest flanking the road was an intimidating presence with its thick canopy of trees. My headlights struggled to pierce through the darkness ahead, and the GPS signal flickered sporadically. The radio, once my source of solace, now emitted only static. The chatter of fellow truckers had faded into silence, leaving me alone with my own thoughts. My rig's cargo bay rumbled from time to time, as if something unseen was pounding against its metal walls, but I figured it was probably branches. My heart quickened, and I could feel a cold sweat forming on my brow. The woods had come alive with strange noises, and I strained my ears to decipher them. It was then that I heard it, the distinct sound of something moving just beyond my line of sight, something that didn't belong in the quiet of the night. The tension inside the cab was palpable as my truck continued down the treacherous road. The unseen menace danced at the edges of my perception, teasing my senses. Each subtle sound sent my heart racing, my grip on the steering wheel tightening. The moment stretched into what felt like an eternity as my truck inched forward, each turn of the wheels accompanied by a gnawing sense of dread. I yearned for the reassuring glow of city lights, for the safety of familiar roads, and for the comfort of knowing I was headed home to my waiting family. But for now, all I had was the oppressive darkness. The truck's tires rolled on, the only sound breaking the eerie silence of the woods. I remained on high alert, knowing that something beyond the veil of darkness lurked, something that was far from the ordinary. With my senses finely tuned, I began to pick up on strange, unnerving noises. There was a low growl, almost like a whisper, emanating from the shadows. The air was thick with an unsettling tension, and the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. I turned my gaze towards the side mirrors, catching fleeting glimpses of mysterious figures. They moved with a feral grace, slipping through the underbrush, their forms concealed by the shroud of night. It was as if they were playing a twisted game of cat and mouse, encircling my truck. Their eyes, glinting with malevolent intelligence, locked onto me. I dared to look closer, catching brief flashes of fur, matted and dark, clinging to their grotesque forms. These were no ordinary predators. Their presence was an aberration in the natural order of things, and the more I saw of them, the more my instincts screamed that I was in grave danger. With a shiver of dread, I realized that I was their target, and they were closing in. The night was alive with their haunting howls and sinister growls, and my truck became the center of their relentless pursuit. As I swerved through the winding forest road, the faint moonlight casting glimmers on the creatures, their monstrous forms came into clearer focus. They were hulking figures with snarling muzzles, their breaths visible in the frigid night air. Their eyes gleamed with a sinister hunger that sent shivers down my spine. The unnerving pursuit continued, my rig rattling with each impact as they leaped and clawed at the truck, their sheer strength evident in the dents they left in its metal exterior. I clenched my teeth, fighting to maintain control of the wheel, determined to make it through this relentless onslaught. Despite my frantic driving, they showed no signs of relenting. The forest road seemed endless, each turn a nightmarish obstacle course, and all the while, their haunting cries filled the air. I knew that escape was my only hope, the light at the end of this twisted tunnel of woods. With every mile that passed, I prayed for the moment when I could burst from the trees and leave these monstrous pursuers behind. Yet, as the night wore on, it became increasingly clear that this ordeal was far from over. Amidst the chaos of the pursuit, I stole a moment to study these nightmarish creatures that had become my tormentors. Their monstrous forms came into clearer view, illuminated by the erratic moonlight filtering through the trees. They were abominations of nature, covered in matted and dark fur, like grotesque parodies of wolves. Their hulking bodies seemed to defy the laws of anatomy, with sinewy muscles rippling beneath their disheveled coats. Their snarling muzzles were filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth that glistened in the dim light. Their eyes, though the stuff of my nightmares, held a malevolent intelligence that chilled me to the bone. They glowed with a sinister yellow hue, gleaming with a predatory hunger that spoke of untold horrors. It was as if they were possessed by an evil force, a primal urge to hunt and devour. Every detail I could discern about these creatures only heightened my fear, but there was no time for contemplation. The pursuit continued, and I knew that my only chance of survival was to reach the safety of the open road beyond the woods. With every passing moment, I fought to maintain control, swerving and veering through the winding forest road. It felt as if they were toying with me, playing with their next meal. My heart pounded in my chest, and sweat drenched my brow as I pressed on, knowing that escape was the only option. The forest, with its sinister canopy and looming trees, offered no respite. Their haunting howls echoed through the night, a chilling reminder of the horrors that pursued me. But I clung to hope, to the distant glimmer of light at the end of this nightmarish ordeal. It was the only thing that kept me going, the belief that I could make it out of these woods. The creatures' attacks started to become more frequent and aggressive, as if they were done playing. The pursuit continued, the forest road winding endlessly, and my truck battered but somehow still holding together. Finally, after what felt like forever, the trees began to thin. The moonlight streamed through the gaps in the foliage, and I could see the outline of a clearing ahead. My heart soared with hope as I pressed on, pushing my old rig to its limits. As I burst from the woods into the open road, the sudden change was like a breath of fresh air after being submerged underwater. The nightmarish chase abruptly came to a halt, the haunting howls fading into the distance. I could hardly believe my luck. I had made it out of the woods, leaving those relentless pursuers behind. Relief washed over me as I continued down the open road, my truck battered but still functional. I couldn't help but glance back at the edge of the forest, where the trees stood like silent sentinels. It was a stark reminder of the horrors I had encountered, a nightmare that was now behind me. I drove on, my foot heavy on the gas pedal, leaving the forest and the horrors within it far behind. The memory of that encounter still clung to me. The adrenaline that had coursed through my veins now gave way to exhaustion, and I found myself replaying the nightmarish events in my mind. It was a night I'll never forget, a tale I recount with trembling words, grateful to have survived the treacherous road through the woods and the terror it concealed. As I continued on my journey home, my rig's headlights cutting through the darkness, I knew that the open road held its own challenges. But for now, I was just thankful to be alive, grateful for the chance to make it back to my family, and forever changed by the horrors that had lurked in the heart of the woods. That's all for today, folks. If you've enjoyed today's story, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what you thought of it and what type of story you would like to hear about next. See you all very soon.